Loretta Green Johnson, class of 1975. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be a part of the Columbia, Maryland chapter's celebration of its 45th anniversary.
So Loretta, why did you choose to attend Spelman College?
What a great question, Janair. You know, growing up in South Carolina, very, very small town, very close-knit community of family and friends, I was very inspired and influenced by my church members and my family. As we considered colleges, being a proud daughter of HBCU graduates, I knew I didn't have a choice as I was making college selections, but to select an HBCU school. So as we started to explore what school that would be, the first choice was Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee. And that was the first choice because all of my early years from elementary school all the way through high school, I was a pianist. Studied piano and played piano, so it was understood that I would be a music major. So we started to look at schools, my mother and I, that had a strong music department. And of course, that's why Fisk. Fisk was known for its famous Jubilee singers back during the time, so I was really excited about that. So I was all set for Fisk when my mother said, you need to apply to more than one school, Loretta. So my father, who was a proud Aggie of A&T University, kind of egged me on for A&T, so I applied to A&T. And of course, my mother said, well, you got to put Spelman down there because of its academic excellence. So there it was, 3 schools. Well, I got accepted to all 3. So now the choice, which one? Well, growing up in church, very, very strong background in the church, 2 of my church members were already attending Spelman. One was a sophomore, would be a sophomore if I was to go to Spelman. The other one would have been a junior. The Lynn, who would have been a sophomore, was a very close friend of mine, and her mother was one of my music teachers. So you can imagine I had a lot of conversations about Spelman. But just observing those 2 young ladies, their manner, the way they carried themselves, their gifts, their talents, and how smart, everything they said and everything about them intrigued me. So just the influence from those 2, as well as my mother and all of her close friends egging me on about Spelman, I guess there was no choice that Spelman would be my decision. And I would also add the fact that growing up in that small town, I could tell you, when you said Spelman, it kind of just rose right up to the top. Spelman was the cream of the crop. So it was just known in our community as their school to go. And when I said Spelman, to be a Spelman woman, it just made everybody lit up. So I knew that that would be the best choice for me. So there you have it. Well, I entered the Black Gates of Spelman on August 1971. The 1970s was very, very Black conscious. It was the height of Black power, where say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. The music of the 70s, I think 1971, Marvin Gaye had just released that iconic album, What's Going On. I mean, even to this day, the lyrics of What's Going On, it's just in my head. You know, mother, 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 why so many crying? Brother, 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 so why so many dying? It was all about lyrics about what was going on in the Vietnam War. So the music, the sounds of the music, also the political climate at the time was very much resonating on the campus. 1971 was also the time when I think Jimmy Carter at the time was elected governor, who later, of course, soon to be president. But it was one thing that was going on with Jimmy Carter in 1971. He made this statement that, you know, racism is going to be over. Spelman, it's known for Sisters Chapel bringing a lot of, iconic and famous people. Well, during the 70s, we had Angela Davis to come to campus. So that was during the time when afros were really, really huge. And here was this young black female political activist with the most towering afro I've ever seen in my life. And at the time, I mean, that was the look. The bigger the afro, the more black power it was. And the dress at that time were jean jackets. We called them back then Abernathy jackets. It was named after Ralph David Abernathy, who was also a civil rights activist in the Atlanta era. So the civil rights movement was also very dominant. And the Atlanta University Center, which Spelman was a part of, was very much involved in the political movement. It was David Ralph Abernathy, also Andrew Young at the time was another young political activist. The both of them together was part of an organization called the Southern Christian Leadership, who did marches and demonstrations throughout Atlanta and also around the AU Center around the Poor People's Movement. So the climate at that time was, students were very woke at the time with the Black Power movement. We were a part of those marches. In 1973, there was another young civil rights activist that came on the scene in 73, and that was Maynard Jackson, Morehouse graduate. He became the first Black mayor of Atlanta. So it was nothing to be a part of Spelman's campus and be a part of all of these political activists going on, to be a part of their campaigns and to be involved. So at that time, as I mentioned, it was all about Black power. It was about being proud. And today, in 2020, has nothing on the 70s at that time. We were very much a part of what's going on.
So what was your major at Spelman, and how did it play a role in your professional pursuits?
Okay. Well, interestingly enough, I started off as a music major. I mentioned earlier, my years of piano. But my sophomore year, there was a desire to do something different. I think all my life I was at the piano and in those piano practice rooms and long days and long hours. I had a burning desire, and something inside of me wanted to do something different. I wanted to be a business administration major, but Spelman did not have a business administration department. The closest to it was being an economics major. So I changed my major my sophomore year to economics because of that desire that I had to be a business major. And that was a very exciting career choice for me, because Spelman did not have a business administration department. It gave me the opportunity to take classes all over the Atlanta University Center, which was one of the opportunities we had. So a lot of my business classes were taken on the Morehouse campus, on Clark Atlanta University. So got engaged with a lot of diverse students from other schools. The educational exchange was very exciting. Led to my career after graduation. My first interest was money and banking and getting into investments. My career landed in the insurance industry, where I spent my entire life, even to this day after college, in the insurance world. I've had many opportunities, a very successful career in corporate America, to where I am today as a CEO of my own insurance agency. So my Spelman economics major, and later, I should say, after Spelman, I did do postgraduate. I have an MBA in finance and marketing. So the combination of my economics degree from Spelman and my MBA has led to a very rewarding and a successful career for me.
Wow, thank you, Loretta. That was great. Can you tell me a little bit about your professors and advisors and how influential they were in your life at Spelman?
When I think about those professors or advisors that may have had the most influence on Spelman, I have to go back to that freshman, sophomore year when I was involved with music. The professors and advisors in the music department were very nurturing to me, very encouraging for me, even when I had doubts of whether or not I would be able to succeed successfully as a music major. For example, one of the things that you had to do when it came to exams, being a music major, was to have what was called a jury. Your exams were before a jury. I had never experienced anything like that in my life before coming to Spelman. You had to learn your whatever the repertoire of music you were asked to be able to play during jury. So that meant you had to be ready and perform before a panel of jury. So it created a lot of anxiety in me. And I remember one of my professor music teachers, Dr. Grace Smith, saying to me, "You know, Loretta, you are an excellent pianist, and I know you can do this." She believed in me. She encouraged me to just practice hard and said, "We know you're going to ace that." So with a lot of practice, a lot of belief in myself, of course I aced my juries. But what that gave me was the whole discipline behind success. Success is if you put in the hard work and you believe in yourself, you can do just about anything. And that has stayed with me for a long time, such that being a mother now with two adult children, I've encouraged them to just believe in yourself. Always put in the work. If you practice and put in the work, you can succeed in just about anything. So those influential professors were my music professors at Spelman.
What activities and organizations were you involved with on campus?
Fun stuff. For my entire 4 years at Spelman, I was a part of Spelman's Glee Club. I love music, I love to sing, so that gave me great joy being a part of Spelman College Glee Club. At the time, the director of the Glee Club was Dr. Roland Allison. He was very, very demanding as a director of the Glee Club, but a very interesting and intriguing person. He had a very interesting personality. So he made Glee Club practice not hard, but also fun. We had a lot of giggles as Glee Club members about Dr. Allison. I loved his choice of music. Even to this day, those songs that we would sing in some of our Glee Club concerts still to this day resonate in my head. In addition to Glee Club, I was a member of the Economics Club and the AKA group. I was also a class officer my freshman and sophomore year. I was a class officer.
So tell me a little bit about your involvement in NAASC Columbia, Maryland. Have you had any leadership roles, and how has it impacted your life?
Okay, I'll start off with when I joined Columbia, Maryland NAASC chapter. I moved to Columbia, Maryland in 1984 and immediately connected with the Columbia, Maryland alumni chapter. At that time, Ora Anderson was chapter president. The chapter at that time was, I believe, about 9 years old. So as I'm thinking, Janaire, 1984 to date, that was 36 years ago. It just dawned on me. I've been a member of this chapter for 36 years. And Ora was the chapter president, and chapter meetings were always held at Ora's home. She was the ultimate Spelman woman, loved Spelman, and 9 years at that time, the chapter was still in building mode. Ora's vision was to build the chapter with Spelman women so that we would have an impact on the community and that we would be a very present force in recruiting other young women to join Spelman. So in the early years, I was very much involved in that building. Spelman NAASC chapter was known for its leadership. Very small during the early years in terms of membership, but very dynamic and visionary women. In fact, 3 of our national presidents came out of the Columbia, Maryland chapter. Ora Anderson was one of them. So I had very great mentors, role models to look up to, very much a part of community activities in the early years. During the building building years of our chapter, we were involved in community events such as the Black History Fair, which was a very staple community event held in the Columbia, Maryland area. I was very much involved with being a part of that, as well as the Columbia Fair. We no longer have the Columbia Fair anymore, but those 2 events gave the chapter an opportunity to not only display, but to educate the community and recruit young women that would come to the booth or their parents about Spelman. So it helped us to spread the word about Spelman. Leadership roles started around 2008. In 2008, the chapter embarked on something a little bit different. It held its first 5K run walk, which was led by one of our chapter members at the time, Gretchen Cook Anderson. I was very much a part of that event. And I recall in 2008 being recognized as that chapter member who raised the most scholarship dollars in the 5K run walk. And that particular event kind of sparked my juices to be a kind of a fundraising guru, because shortly after 2008, in 2009, I have this memory of being at a chapter meeting and talking about, well, what are we going to do next as our next fundraising activity, with one of our primary mission is to raise scholars for students in the Maryland area to attend Spelman. What would be the next event? And Dr. Jean Gary William at the time, who had previously led fundraising events, talked about in that chapter meeting about bringing the Spelman College Jazz Ensemble back to Columbia, Maryland. But there were a lot of reservations around bringing the jazz ensemble back because of the expense. It took a lot of expense to bring them here. And I just remembered thinking and sitting there, what a great opportunity that would be, because that was 2009. And there was a little bit of selfishness there, because my daughter, who was a pianist at the time, and at Spelman and a part of the jazz ensemble, I was thinking, that might be good to bring the ensemble back. And so I had this vision about, how we could do it. And I presented a proposal, a very convincing proposal, to the chapter about sponsorship. Well, we can do this if we had sponsors that would sponsor the jazz ensemble, rather than, at the time, the membership was very, very small in terms of financial members. So it would have been very taxing on about 10 or 12 members to be able to cultivate the funds to take care of the expenses. I said, we can do it if we could have sponsors. So the convincing proposal got approved and adopted. So then I became, in 2009, the chair of the Spelman Jazz Ensemble Concert, which led to about a 7-year love affair of being the Spelman Jazz Ensemble fundraising chair. So 2009, I chaired that event. In 2010, I chaired that event, and we very successfully met the goals, raised the funds. So it created a new dynamic within the chapter. In 2011, the chapter had wanted me to do that again, and we had grown at that point. We were growing, and we were growing in demands for the jazz ensemble. It became a little bit of a brand in the community. So when asked again, I said yes, but I need a co-chair. So starting from 2011 to 2016, I continued to chair, but co-chair, the Spelman Jazz Ensemble Benefit Concert. And we continue to raise tremendous dollars for scholars, something I'm very, very proud of. After 2016, I continued being a part of those fundraising efforts, but then was asked to now have a subcommittee under the fundraising committee called the sponsorship committee. And I was asked to be the sponsorship chair under the fundraising committee. So that took place in 2016, 17, and 18. And during that time, it was such a benevolent experience to be a part of, I would say, because we were able to elevate the scholarship awards to Columbia, Maryland area students attending Spelman. I believe in 2015, we raised, we awarded, I believe, close to around maybe 10,000 in scholarships. And I think 2017 was our highest award year. I believe we awarded around $14,000 in scholarship, which was probably one of the highest amount of awards. And it was just an exciting time. I also, one of the other leadership roles, I should say, was in 2014-16, that 2-year term, I became chapter president. Another benevolent and humbling experience for me. Some of the highlights that I can recall of being a chapter president was in 2015, we celebrated our 40th anniversary under my leadership. So during the chapter's 40th anniversary, we had the 40th anniversary signature jazz ensemble concert. We embarked on another challenging event where we stepped outside of some of the arenas in which we previously held the concert and held it in collaboration with Bowie State University, another HBCU, in their state-of-art fine arts auditorium. So at that signature jazz ensemble event, we honored our living founder chapter members who were still living. We were very pleased to have come down and honor us with her presence. Our 9th president, Dr. Beverly Tatum, came to that event. We also had at that event our national president, Daphne Smith. So that was an exciting time during my leadership as president. We also had a 40th anniversary signature luncheon where we also honored all of our chapter presidents who were still with us at that luncheon, as well as founding members. Another memorable event during a leadership role was the retiring of the founder of the Spelman College Jazz Ensemble, Mr. Joe Jennings. What a love affair the Columbia community had with Mr. Jennings. Mr. Jennings started the jazz ensemble, and I believe the first concert we held was in 1996, and the last concert was in 2013. We rolled out the red carpet literally for Mr. Jennings at his farewell concert here. It was a sold-out event. The community was in tears. As mentioned, we were a brand in Columbia. People were asking for tickets a year in advance. They loved Mr. Jennings. We gave him the key to the city. The Howard County executive gave him the key to the city. He was our honoree of the evening. So very memorable event. So my leadership roles were very humbling to me. As I was able to witness some of the scholarship awards at our holiday event where we award our awards, and to see $4,000, $5,000 in scholarships given to individuals, and to see the tears and to hear the expressions of parents saying, oh my God, I didn't know if we would be able to return to Spelman the next semester if it wasn't for the generosity of the Columbia, Maryland chapter scholarship event, and to know that I had a part of that, and to be a part of Aura's vision when she founded the chapter was to be about helping other students go to Spelman through scholarship. What can I say? I was proud to be a part of that.
So, Loretta, what advice would you give to your younger self?
My younger self was one in which, as I think back, one of always feeling that I had to have all the answers. And I don't know if that was part of maybe being the oldest of three, and if that was an expectation that I felt. Maybe it was my perception, or I don't know, maybe there was things that was put upon me that I felt that way, that I had to be the strongest all the time, that I couldn't be the weak one, that I had to know all the answers. And I would probably go as far to say that you had to always get it right, be perfect. So if I had to talk to my younger self, I would say, you know what, Loretta? It's okay to not know it all, to not have all the answers. It's okay that you don't have to be the strong one. It's okay that, sometimes to let others know that, you're not feeling up to par today. You can be weak. I think it's okay sometimes to be vulnerable, because when you are vulnerable and you can open up and let others know that, I too need help, or I too don't know that, you'll be surprised and amazed of the support that will come your way. So I would say to myself that, it's okay to fail. You can pick yourself back up and brush yourself off. It's okay to make mistakes. There's something called forgiveness, and you will be forgiven. And it's okay to be weak and vulnerable. There's a lot of love and support around to lift you up.
It sounds like you had a wonderful time being at Spelman. Can you tell us what your most memorable moment was?
It's a tie. So I'm going to talk about two things because it's a strong tie. The first one was being a part of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. My senior year, we had formed an interest group, Alpha Kappa Alpha, women who were interested in being a part of that sorority. And I have to share that at the time, Dr. Manley was the president. And Dr. Manley in the 70s did not believe in sororities on campus. He felt that sororities would break up the sisterhood. But there was a strong desire and a strong interest to be a part of that sorority, and it was our senior year, so we were committed to getting it done. So it was Kappa Omega, which was the graduate chapter of Atlanta, Georgia, that came to Spelman's campus, worked with the interest group, and formed the pledge process. It ended up 31 from the interest group became pledgees through Kappa Omega graduate chapter in Atlanta. I was one of those 31 pledgees. We called ourselves the Classic 31. So we always like to say that, Mu Pi is on campus now, Well, we were the first. 1975, it was May of 1975, before graduation, we were initiated into Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Being a part of that whole pledge process of community service, getting involved in the Atlanta community, working with seniors. The graduate chapter members had us doing all kinds of things. I learned what it meant to give back to others. To this day, I am still a member, a very active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and it is all about the service. 45 years of service in that sorority, and that's most memorable. Secondly was graduation. Being the oldest sibling and the first to graduate, and to graduate from Spelman College, and to graduate with honors. I must say, I graduated with honors, an economics major. And it was exciting because at the time, the economics department was a very, very small department at Spelman. And there were probably less than 20 of us in that department that graduated, and to graduate with top honors from economics, I was so excited. And to my family, all my friends came to see and witness that. I was just elated. I could not be any prouder.
So, Loretta, I know that you had your sister Penny with you on campus at some point during your tenure at Spelman. As a person with sisters, I know how that is. So you had AKA sisters, you had Spelman sisters as well, and also your natural sister. Tell us how that was.
That was special. It really, really was special. My sister saw how much Spelman, the difference I would say that Spelman had made in me. I have to share at this point, coming to Spelman August of 1971. When I came to Spelman, that was one of the darkest periods in my life. Just about a month before coming to Spelman, I had lost my mother in a horrific car accident. So I did not want to come to Spelman. I was not going to Spelman. I was just devastated. I was going to Spelman was all of her dreams, everything she had dreamed about. Her oldest daughter was going to Spelman, and to lose her, it was like a black hole. So coming to Spelman was, for me, life-changing. I would say Spelman, literally, I would say probably saved me. Those black gates wrapped their arms around me, and everything about Spelman wrapped its arms around me and comforted me when I arrived on campus. So my sister saw that change in me when I would come home. So she was not coming to Spelman, but I think there was this aura about me. She made that decision, so she was there, and I could not have been happier. Can you imagine having someone that you could share things, you could laugh, you could share, you could cry together. We complemented each other. We actually completed each other. We were different in a lot of ways, but in so many ways, we had the same heart and the same soul. And she had her own sets of friends at Spelman. I had my own sets of friends. But we can come together in each other's dorm, and we could stay as long as we want. We could kick each other out. Folks, I was proud to show her around campus. Oh boy, big sister. I was so happy to show everybody, this is my sister Penny. So it was a good thing. We were Spelman Glee Club members together. She was a part of the Glee Club, so we sang together. We could laugh about Dr. Allison together. We were economics majors also. So we could study together. We could talk about how hard it was. We could talk about the professors. You know, that bond of sisterhood we were 19 months apart, I should say that. So that sisterhood and that closeness came all the way to Spelman. Glee Club, economics major. I pledged Spelman in 1975, and after graduating, 1976, Penny pledged. So we were also sorority sisters. So the bond and the closeness is just forever there. It was a good thing. It was the greatest thing having her there.
So Spelman definitely had a great role in your family's legacy. Tell us more about that with your own children.
Well, it definitely is. If you were to talk to my kids and ask them about Spelman, or you would talk to my late sister Petty and ask her about her kids about Spelman, they would tell you that Spelman runs deep. If Loretta or Penny could be any color, they would be blue. So Spelman runs deep with me, and it also runs deep with my late sister Penny. Our children, Penny was blessed to have 2 daughters. Of course, I was blessed to have 1 daughter, Jasmine, and of course a son. And the legacy probably started early before they even knew it. So they would be in our laps at chapter meeting, on the floor at chapter meeting. I think they could probably sing the Spelman hymn before they could talk, because they heard it sang so many times. But if you talk to any of the girls, Penny's daughters or my daughter, they both would have told you in high school that they were not going to Spelman. In fact, all 3 of them applied to schools, and their top choices were not Spelman. But of course, Spelman was on the list because it had to be on the list. Or they knew their mothers would have it no other way. So it's interesting how Spelman was at the bottom, but in each one of the girls rose to the top. I would speak for my Jasmine daughter, whose first choice I would say was the University of Pittsburgh. She was going there without a doubt. But Spelman has a program called Spelman. It's called Spellbound. So Jasmine went to Spellbound, and everything changed. She came back from Spellbound and told us she already has a roommate. She has already picked her roommate, and I'm saying, how could you pick your roommate at Spellbound? She was going to Spelman. There is something about and something to be said about being in the presence of Spelman. I don't know if the campus, the dormitories, there is something very magnetic at Spelman that draws you in. So Jasmine declared right then after Spellbound she was going to Spelman. I think the same occurred for Penny's daughters, her oldest Chanel and her youngest Bethany. In terms of the legacy, my God, and the gift that Spelman has given us, as mentioned, both Penny and I were economics majors. We both have had, and I still have, a very rewarding career, certainly as a result of my academic choices at Spelman. Spelman has birthed 2 doctors in our family. My daughter Jasmine graduated in 2011 in biology at Spelman. She went on to get her master's in biology from Auburn University on a full fellowship, and I would say all because of Dr. Bass, who's head of health careers at Spelman, who's very instrumental in that Jasmine getting that full scholarship. It was an interim step for Jasmine because she knew long-term she wanted to go to med school. Jasmine didn't feel that her GPA was just where she wanted to be. And Dr. Bass was very instrumental in that interim step before going on to pre-med school, where she attended Auburn University's first graduating pre-med school. She was part of the first medical college student at Auburn University, graduated top of her class, in the top 5 of her class from Auburn University in obstetrics and gynecology, and is in her 2nd year residency now. And I would say we owe that all to Spelman. I go back to that because I remember at graduation in 2011, meeting Dr. Bass for the first time, because I wanted to meet this Dr. Bass, who was so instrumental that Jasmine had talked about. And I would mention that in 2009, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And one of the things that I did not want to do was to tell my daughter, because she was at school, a student at Spelman. I didn't want to have anything to interfere with her being successful. But we did share, with the encouragement of my cancer team, that my children should know. And didn't find out until Dr. Bass was very instrumental in supporting Jasmine 2009 through 2011 while at Spelman. And when I met her after graduation, one look at her and I broke down in tears. She said to me, she said, "We were not going to let Jasmine Loretta Johnson work at McDonald's." Jasmine was going to succeed, and we were going to do everything possible so that Jasmine was going to have a successful career. And I mention that to say that is the walls of Spelman. When you come to Spelman, you are not alone in Spelman. Everything there will support to make you successful. The second doctor in the family is Penny's oldest daughter, Dr. Chanel Vanderhorst, who is a physical therapist who went on from Spelman to get her PhD in physical therapy from Temple. And her mother, who is also a breast cancer survivor, Chanel went on to specialize in physical therapy, lymphedema, where she works specifically, not specifically and only with cancer patients, but she specializes in physical therapy, lymphedema with cancer. So very successful career for Chanel. Penny's youngest daughter, Bethany, was an international studies major at Spelman, studied abroad during her time there, and has now lived abroad in Madrid, Spain for several years. Bethany went on to get her master's while in Madrid in bilingual and multicultural education, and she is an English educator living in Madrid now for over 5 years. So our legacy expands to our daughters, who owe a lot of their success to Spelman. And my son, I will say, attending many graduations, the graduation of his sister and his 2 nieces. During his sister's graduation, Michelle Obama was the commencement speaker. His youngest first cousin, Bethany, I believe Oprah Winfrey, was the commencement speaker. And I remember Justin saying to me, turning to me in 2012 at Bethany's graduation, in which Oprah was the speaker, saying, "My God, Spelman is something else." He looked at me and said, "You know, Mom, if I ever have a daughter in life, there will be no doubt she is going to Spelman." So I guess in my family, the legacy is set. We are Spelman proud.